Welcome back to another Free Agents podcast. As always, it's Baz here. With me, I've got Rigmarole Schofield in the house. And for all of our French listeners, I've got Ville de Chocolat for the Tony Parker fans out there. Today, we've got some very, very exciting content we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the bubbles as it's finished. We all know that. We're going to talk about who's impressed, who's disappointed, playoffs predictions, and the all-bubble team at NBA Bubble MVP. Before we get into that, Choc, we've got some breaking news. Please go ahead.
All right, so the brackets for the playoffs have been finalized, and it looks like Portland was smashing everybody's dreams over the last couple of days. They first destroyed Phoenix's dream by a win over the Nets, and then they destroyed Memphis's dream this morning. And Dame has also won the Bubble MVP, which Baz will cover later. The Spurs have missed the playoffs for the first time in 22 years, and Popovich had one of the most fantastic comebacks for a reporter about it, saying he pretty much didn't care. We've had lots of movements around the NBA this week as well. So we've had Alvin Gentry has been fired as the Pelicans head coach. Jim Boylan has been fired as the Bulls head coach. Vlade Divac has stepped down as the Sacramento Kings general manager. And Pej Stojakovic has also stepped down as the assistant GM at the Kings. So there's been big movements there.
Thank you. So before we get stuck into it, what we're going to start with, the season's ended. As you all know, the playoffs are about to start. Before we talk about that, the NBA has now announced that guests can now enter the bubble. Rig, how do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, they'll be the first league in the US to allow it. There's going to be some teething issues. Somebody's going to make a mistake, or someone's going to try and come in that shouldn't be allowed to come in. I think, at the end of the day, it's good for the players to have their family and their long-standing friends around.
Yeah.
And obviously to see their children. I don't think letting them go through the entire playoffs, which I think it was going to be something like 90 days without seeing their family, is good for mental health. But there's definitely going to be some teething issues with it.
So the NBA has announced it's going to be limited to 4 guests per player, and the league has said that it has to be either family members or long-time close friends who the player has an established pre-existing and known personal relationship, private security staff, and established family childcare providers.
So no thoughts. That's what I get from that.
That's it.
Basically.
So you have to have under a million followers on Insta probably.
Yeah. Stay out the DMs type
from what
stuff.
From who they said of who is not allowed in the bubble, they said trainers, physical massage therapists, personal chefs, hairstylists, tattoo artists, but there's nothing about thoughts. So
I wonder if people like LeBron are going to get away with having his business partner come in, player agents. Are they going to be allowed in? Because some people have player agents who are long-standing friends. So, I mean, that's just I don't think it'll be an issue, but
they'll still have to go for the same quarantine. They can't afford for it to.
Yeah, so they can quarantine. They can either quarantine in Orlando for, I think, 5 days.
7 days at the bubble. So 7 days in the bubble to quarantine, or they have to go to their team. It's like a sort of I don't know how to describe
a city facility?
Yeah, it's like a city facility for that team, and basically they can do 3 days there and then 4 days in the bubble before they're allowed to actually move around.
Okay.
Yeah, great. So, no Insta.
No Insta.
Pretty much. No Insta. Okay, now to the important stuff. The season's ended. Playoffs are about to begin on Tuesday morning for us Australians. Monday in America. Which teams have impressed you or disappointed you so far? We'll talk about this, then we'll go on to individual players. So start off with impressed teams.
Yeah, I'm deceptively impressed by the Raptors. They went 7-1 in the bubble.
Yeah.
I think that they are the most both deep and spread out team. And by that, I mean, I think everyone in their team plays a very pivotal role to them winning. Now that Kawhi's gone, obviously you want to have Spicy P as your number one option. But you've got established veterans in Ibaka and Gasol. And you've got probably a very underrated player in Kyle Lowry, who's probably going to be, it rides off the back of how him and Spicy P play. But I was very impressed by them. But I'm also not surprised by them doing really well. Yeah. I thought they would rest more players and therefore lose a couple more games.
Yeah, because Spicy P didn't play as well as he did all regular season in the bubble, really.
No, and I don't think he's acclimatized yet to the bubble. But he has to now that playoffs are coming. They've got an easy first round matchup against the Nets. There's no one really that's going to be a matchup problem for them in that. But yeah, as I said, I thought that considering how many players are going to be rested in the bubble for those kind of teams at the top, that they would go 7-1.
Yeah, with the emergence of Fred VanVleet from last season or last playoffs.
Yeah.
He's going to have a bigger role this year and his contract year as well.
Yeah, he's playing for cash. He's trying to secure the bag. Simple as that.
That's right. So see if he stays with the Raptors after this season or if he might move or they match the offer sheet. There's plenty that's going to happen. Another team that's impressed me, which we both called at the start from episode 1, was Portland.
Yeah, we both had Portland getting in. Beat Memphis this morning to secure that spot in the playoffs. To be
6-2.
Yeah, 6-2 in the bubble. We expected that. There's nothing really too much to say for me because I thought they had the best chance of getting in, having a fully healthy team back. We talked about them having Collins, Nurkic, Melo's playing out of his skin. And then obviously Dame and CJ are just doing what they always do.
Yeah, and Gary Trent Jr.'s chipped in as well, which is a nice surprise.
See, that's the big surprise on the Portland team. I didn't expect him to do as well as he has.
Yeah, and, with Portland, we always expected them. I think it's nice to see, or I'm glad that it's happened, because I would have been disappointed if they didn't.
Yeah, I feel like injuries are really what hampered them from getting to further into the playoffs already.
Yeah.
I feel like if they had this team from the start of the season, they would be the fourth or fifth seed.
Yeah, close to 50 wins.
Yeah, exactly right. So
That's right.
I think it's kind of like poetic justice to see them get in, considering all the health blows that they were given.
Yeah, 100%. And the team that you owe an apology for.
I'm sorry.
Why are they even here? Phoenix
I'm
Suns.
sorry, Phoenix Suns fans. I'm so sorry.
8-0.
Impressive. And impressive wins. It's not
Yeah.
just the fact they are 8-0. They've won 5 games by more than double digits. When is the last time the Suns won anything by double digits? They usually lose by double digits. So that's most impressive. And I think as much as we talked about wanting Portland to get in, and we got the matchup that we thought, Memphis and Portland in the end for that final seed, I really do think that NBA fans wanted the Suns in that position. And they tied with Memphis. They had the same record. But Memphis held pre-COVID 3-1 head-to-head. So a bit disappointing for Suns fans in the sense they didn't make it, but super impressive to see them go 8-0 when, as I said earlier, I didn't even think they get, why would you invite them? But they pushed it.
There's a bright future for them.
Yeah, I don't feel sorry for them, if I'm honest, because they had all season to prove something and try and get the 8th.
Yeah, you're right.
But it was nice to see another team go into the bubble and not get walked over and actually turn up to play and try and compete and have the mentality, we're going to make this the playing spot. It would have been great to see the Suns versus Trailblazers in the playing spot because obviously with D-Book so hot and then Dame so hot right now, it would have been a great matchup. But I think Grizzlies, based on the regular season, and I think they should have made the 8th spot anyway, they were the most deserving team to be in the playing based off the regular season. So as from this morning, Portland have secured the 8th spot, so they'll verse the Lakers in the first round. Disappointed teams.
Yeah, so speaking of the Lakers, I'm very disappointed with them. I don't know if it's so much that it's going to be a problem when they move to the playoffs. Obviously, they didn't need anything to be done during the regular season bubble. They already were in first place, and it would have taken the Clippers to go, I think, undefeated and them to lose every game for them to lose the first seed. Yeah. So once they secured the first seed, there was kind of, we can rest players here. LeBron had a bit of a contusion, so he stayed out for a bit. AD was hot and cold, 40 points one game, 13 the next. But overall, what I'm worried about or concerned about is their offensive efficiency. They went from being top 5 in the NBA to now in the bubble, they have the worst offense. And while we're sitting here hearing from people saying it's easier to shoot in the bubble, the Lakers are shooting worse than ever.
Yeah,
that's concerning.
That's based around no fans and no movement behind the backboard. And
yeah, correct. And I think the key for the Lakers moving forward is those guys who are sitting off the back of the AD and the LeBron double teams and that quick ball man who can hit that knockdown corner shot. And if that's not falling, we know the Clippers, the Rockets, and Portland, the teams like that are going to be hitting those knockdown shots. They've done it all bubble and all regular season. So if Lakers can't do that, they're going to get shot out the gym.
Yeah, and they usually a LeBron team steps up in the playoffs, which we've seen many times. So there's a lot to play out there. So I'm keen to see how that unfolds. Disappointed in the Pelicans, probably the team I'm most disappointed in, considering the bubble was probably based around them.
I'm just upset. They were handed every opportunity to win the bubble regular season. They were given an easier strength of schedule. They were given Zion back and what seemed to be healthy. They were given that 8-9 matchup so they could have a chance to get in and then play in for that 8th spot, regardless of whether they were within 4 games. I expected better of them, and they just didn't provide. And as you can see, the wash up of it is that Alvin Gentry's gone now.
Yeah, he was there for 5 years. He was there, when AD and Rondo and Drew Holiday had that playoffs.
Yeah, and he handled himself very well during that whole AD saga that went on, and obviously, I just think he's a bit of the scapegoat for what is a on court poor performance.
Yeah, but they played terrible. Like, they were disgusting.
They were down by 43, I think, in one game at one point.
Yeah, against the Clippers.
If you're pushing to be in the playoffs, you can't be down by 43 at a point in a game.
But their defense was so bad. Like, it was just like embarrassing.
It honestly was. They are the worst team in the bubble.
Yeah,
Plain and simple.
I would agree with that. Like, everyone had expectations for them, and it was so exciting to see. And it was just like,
Well, we were all expecting, especially those games between the Grizzlies and the Pelicans, to be of some sort of note. But realistically, they weren't of a note because the Pelicans had put themselves in a position by that point where it was going to be an uphill climb to even get in.
yeah,
And then they had the back end news of Zion. Is he injured? Is he not? Is he frustrated with the amount of minutes he's getting? Brandon Ingram kind of went a little bit cold. I felt like watching them, their whole offense went through JJ Redick, and that's not what you want on a playoff team. JJ Redick's a great shooter, but your offense shouldn't be geared towards him being your number one scorer.
yeah. JJ Redick should have had more of a leadership role instead of being the go-to guy to put up. Well,
Yeah, he's
the
a
go-to guy, but he was the next best scorer, pretty much.
He's a mentor at this stage, and yet
Yeah.
they're using him as, the man to run off the back of. He's not going to carry you to the playoffs.
No.
But disappointing from the Pelicans overall. But as I said, on to the offseason, they're going to have a look at themselves.
That's it. They're transitioning now, and it's probably main reason why Gentry's now left. They'll need a new face and some fresh faces, clean out. So, and finally, Utah. I always expect Utah to perform a little bit better. I don't know if it's because Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are a decent duo, but they don't like each other.
What?
But then they're playing the Denver Nuggets again, which must be like...
I feel like
it's every year.
I feel like every year they're in that middle sort of part of the playoffs where those two teams sort of play each other. Utah are an interesting team. They've got the serious talent in Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. Joe Ingles or Jingles here for the Aussie fans.
Slow-mo Joe.
Yeah, he can put up buckets. Jordan Clarkson off the bench has been really hot. They've got a good team, even without Bogdanovic. And then obviously the veteran Mike Conley at point. I just don't know why they're not performing with the roster they have. I just don't get it. Maybe, as I said, a bit of a layover from what happened with the COVID days between Gobert and Mitchell. Is that playing a part? Did they just not really care about the bubble because their seeding wasn't really going to be affected that much? But they just don't look like they're going to make a splash, and I feel like Denver's going to walk all over them.
Yeah. Denver will win the series.
Are we going to say sweep?
It's not going to be a sweep.
I'm confident it's 4-1. I don't see Jazz winning
I
more
can
than the
see
game.
being in 5, maybe in 6, but there's no. It doesn't go past 6.
No, it definitely doesn't go past 6. I'll be shocked.
It'll be. I like to think it'll be close, but I don't think it will be. Moving on. All bubble first team.
Yeah.
So the best players that performed in the bubble, teams that played 7 games, 8 games.
So the
We're
5.
going with the Mike D'Antoni lineup here.
Yeah, that's it. So
Small ball.
Very small ball. There's no big boys in this
All right,
one.
let's Rig, you start.
I'll start with, it's in no particular positional order, but I'm just going to start with TJ Warren, 31 points a game, 6.3 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.3 steals.
Landlord of Disney.
Landlord of Disney. He played extremely well. He had only, I think, one poor performance, and that was against the Heat. But to be fair, Indiana didn't play very well in that game. I think that his willingness to just let it fly was huge for the Pacers. Like, Oladipo still coming back from injury. He's still not quite the Oladipo of old, so they needed points production, and he just stepped up and he just took it by the scruff of the neck and he ran with it. Whether he can do it outside the bubble, we'll wait and see. But he's probably my most improved of the bubble, if that's possible.
Yeah, with Warren moving into next season, the role he will play might change. I don't know if the impact will be as big.
Is he going to be the one, or is Oladipo going to move back to the one with a full off season to rest and recover and get fully healthy and comfortable being back on the basketball court, and then Warren becomes a secondary scorer? Or are they going to see this and go, maybe Warren's the guy to ride off, and Oladipo is going to be his Robin to his Batman?
Yeah, because it's that when you call out the starting lineup or the best 5 on the team, you've got Brogdon, Oladipo, TJ Warren, then you've got Sabonis, who's an all-star, then you've got Miles Turner.
I think
it's actually not bad.
It's a solid team, especially in the East. And I think Sabonis is a bit of a jack of all trades. He can do a bit of everything. He can score for you. He's obviously a solid rebounder. He's a double-double machine. But you need I always feel like a wing player should be your best scorer. Because
Yeah,
I feel
that's
like they
right.
can do a bit of everything.
Yeah.
And I think Sabonis is not quite going to be putting up 30 a game. But TJ Warren's shown in this very small sample size that he could put the team on his back and he can score and score heavy.
Yeah, that's right. I totally agree. The wing player is where most of your points will come from. I can't see power forward putting up 30 a game.
No.
But it would definitely contribute with 18, 20.
Now, the next face of the NBA is my next
it.
pick, Luka Doncic from the Mavs. Again, he just played really, really well. 30 points, 9.7 assists, 10.1 rebounds. That's almost a triple-double. Can we look at that? He's 0.3 assists away from a 30-point, 10 triple-double.
But I'm not surprised.
Not surprised, but still impressed.
It's very impressive. But I'm used to this.
Well, that's it. I kind of not expect it, but I feel like he's established now. He is a star in the league, and where Mavs go, he's off the back of how he plays.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, there's not much to say about it. It's very impressive, and I think he was the youngest person to get a triple double, to get 3 triple doubles in the NBA.
He was the youngest to get a 30-20 triple double.
Yeah, wow. Like, that's unbelievable at his age. I think it's just very impressive. But again, as you said, kind of expected.
Yeah, like if we'd seen stats and it'd been 26 points, 6 assists, 7 rebounds, we'd be like, he didn't play that well.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
Exactly, because that's a lot better than TJ Warren's stats. James Harden.
Yeah, I got James Harden next. I mean, fear the beard. Westbrook was out for a lot of games, resting a thigh contusion. So he had to do a lot more for the Rockets. But he just picked up exactly where he left off. It's his 3rd scoring title after the regular season ended. But 35.3 points, 8.7 assists, 9.2 rebounds, and 3 steals. The key for me is the 3 steals.
Playing defense.
I feel like I know I always give him a hard time when we're chatting away about who's poor defenders in the league, but he seems like he's trying harder because he's realizing now that you're not always just going to outscore everyone by just letting them get shots up and you get shots up.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, he's not guarding the best player on the court, but with Westbrook off, he's now having to guard the best player on the court because they're running small ball. So they can't afford to have PJ Tucker guarding, say, a Paul George or a Kawhi anymore because he's too busy guarding the center. So I think I'm very impressed with how he's played. And I think, again, similar to where the Mavs are at, it's not about Westbrook for the Rockets. It's about Harden for the Rockets.
It's always been about Harden. Even when Westbrook got traded, it was still always going to be about Harden. You know, Westbrook was robbing once again.
Yeah.
As he was with KD. He's now robbing to
But I think he's
Harden.
best suited as a Robin.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's more in control, a better player overall when he's not expected to do everything.
Yeah, and with the Rockets, in the playoffs this year, if they don't perform or do well, or go to the finals or the Western Conference Finals, you might see a shake-up.
Well, they've been running this small ball all year, and we're yet to see if it'll pay off. Because I thought they would get to where they are now, regardless of the lineup they put out there. If you got Harden and Westbrook on your side, you should be finishing in the top tier of the Western Conference. I don't know if
I expect them to finish 3rd.
Yeah. But it's the top tier of the Western Conference. I expect them to be the 3rd place team behind the 2 LA Clippers, the LA teams moving forward.
Yeah.
That's what I expected. So does that mean that small ball's working, or
Is it just the same if you had Clint Capella there?
exactly right?
Yeah.
So,
And then Damian Lillard.
Dame time, mate. He has played incredible. 37.6 points a game, 9.6 assists, but he's also playing a lot. And he had to play a lot.
He has to. This is the thing.
He had to play a lot in order for them to be better and to win and to get to the playoffs. So now that they're in the playoffs, maybe his minutes will be a bit less than they were before, but also they're taking on the Lakers. And if they want to stand any chance of avoiding the sweep, he's going to have to play 50 a game.
Yeah. He can't play 50 a game. We all should know that. But he'll be playing a lot of minutes. He won't get rested much. He actually put up 3 games this season in the bubble and outside the bubble of 60 points. And he shares that with one player called Wilt Chamberlain.
That's
in the history
company.
of the NBA.
Great company. But
That's serious company.
it is. But
He's a great player.
He's a really good player, and I think people are starting to... He was underrated. I think people realize now he's a stud. He's a star. But I'm going to put this out here. He is not my bubble MVP. I know he was given the award by the NBA the first time ever, but I'm going to go with Devin Booker, Mr. Strawberries and Cream, Devin Booker. And the reason is 30.5 points a game, 6 assists, 4.9 rebounds. But it's not about the stats. It's what he did for the Suns.
Yeah.
They went from absolutely garbage all regular season.
Garbage.
Hot garbage to 8-0 in the bubble. And in my point, robbed of a playoff matchup or a chance to get in the playoffs. So he's my MVP. And I think it's because I didn't expect anything of them. Whereas I expected Dame, and we talked about this in the previous episode, I expected him to be the man. He had to show up.
Yeah.
Devin Booker could have come in, cruised, spent all time texting Kendall on the outside, waiting to be like, hey, where are we going after this? But he came in and played out of his skin, and including, obviously, the peak would be the game winner over Paul George to beat the Clips.
Yeah. He's always been sneaky and just putting up, like, big games, and they kind of just go
He dropped
astray.
70 points. It's a career high of 70 points, I believe.
Yeah, against the Celtics.
Yeah, so the man can play, but again, like all things, the Phoenix Suns are the Phoenix Suns. And last time we spoke about them with any positive note, Steve Nash was in the league.
Yeah, with Amari Stoudemire.
Yeah,
Boris
Rajah
Diaw
Bell.
and Roger Bell.
Oh, what
And
a team.
Barbosa.
Sean
What
Marion.
a throwback.
Oof. But I want to also address a six-man. I know the NBA did not talk about this, but I'm going to put in a six-man. Karis LeVert from the Brooklyn Nets.
The Brooklyn Nets next season, if KD and Kyrie are back, and he's your third option,
Oh, unbelievable.
they're going to be frightening.
Spencer Dinwiddie, KD, Kyrie, Karis LeVert, DeAndre Jordan, with
Jared Allen.
Jared Allen off the bench,
Joe Harris.
Joe Harris, shooting Joe. Like, that's a scary team. I know we're laughing about the Nets this year, but obviously, like, with the injuries that have taken place, they were never going to compete the way they are, where they were expected. But next season, they're going to have a great team. And on top of that, they're in the East, so you know things are going to be easier for them. But I think it's just the way he's played. He came into the bubble and was like, this is going to be my team. There's no one of note on the roster. It's time for me to shine. And he had 22.6 points a game, 4.6 rebounds, and 6.2 assists. So he's doing a bit of everything. It's not like he's just scoring.
Yeah.
He's distributing the ball. And in that final game against, I believe it was
Portland.
Portland, he missed the game winner step back. But it's the confidence he had to shoot it.
Yeah.
He goes, this is my time, and I'm taking over. So I put him as a little six-man of the year there. That's my take.
That's right. And surprisingly, the Nets actually won 5 games in the bubble. I expect them to get rolled over.
Yeah.
Win maybe 1, 2.
They really battled, which is good.
It's good to see. I like seeing competitiveness, especially moving into the playoffs when they'll play the Raptors, which
and
they
get
might
swept.
they might nick a game.
I don't think they'll be competitive against the Raptors, but I think it bodes well for what the roster will be next season when they are going to be competitive. When you get 2 superstars on the roster.
And an honourable mention to the breakout star from the Nuggets, Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah, he played really well. Like, I was very impressed. I think the big key for me with him is that he actually, for the first time, was consistent. He's not getting a lot of minutes in the pre-COVID regular season, but this 22 points a game, 8.5 rebounds, and 1.5 assists.
Yeah, with 1 steal and 1 block.
Yeah.
Just misses out on the 6-man for me, but the Nuggets definitely have a stud on their hands.
Definitely a steal, and he's now finally healthy, and it looks like he's going to be quite the player for them. I think he should start for them next season.
Yeah, I agree. And now we have the old bubble trash team. Or I like to call them the Toon Squad.
The Toon Squad. I'm going to
We'll start with...
Let's go. Big Zion. Garbage. And I know
so disappointed the Pelicans.
There's a whole cloud over him going, is he injured? Is it a minutes restriction? Are they resting him because they didn't think they were really a chance? But the key I want to talk about here is the lack of defense. He did not record a steal or a block in every bubble game he played, which is for a guy who we've seen jump from the start of the key and block a 3-point shot when he was playing for Duke, with the outstanding blocks at the rim he's had while playing for the Pelicans. I'm shocked that he had absolutely none, no blocks or steals during the bubble. The other key point, and this is for the stat people out there, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's not always about the stats, but they were averaging defensively, so teams were scoring against them 128.4 points per 100 possessions.
That's disgusting.
But with Zion off the court, they only allowed 102.5 points per 100. So you're talking about a 26-point swing with Zion sitting on the bench. That's huge. Is it all Zion?
No.
But
he plays a role in that.
He definitely plays a role in that.
I think it comes down to fitness. But I can see next season with Gentry now gone, it'll be like Gentry was holding Zion back. And
that'll be the spin.
Yeah, that would be the spin, and Gentry would be made a scapegoat.
Yeah.
And it won't be fair on Gentry, but I think he should have played a bit more.
Well, Zion needs to do something over the offseason to make him more durable. He needs to be playing 70 to 75 games at least a season. If he misses a few, so be it. But he can't afford to miss most of the season.
He needs to play 60 plus.
100%.
Another Pelican who I'm actually kind of losing confidence with now, Lonzo Ball.
Yeah, he came down to the Pelicans from the Lakers and played very, very well.
And his father bigs him up like,
yeah,
you shouldn't trade my son, I will show you.
Yeah, that's the hype that was around him. And to be fair, he played very well for a lot of the season, but his bubble, 5.7 points, down from 13 points, 7 assists. Assists are strong. Can't knock the assists. 5.3 rebounds. But the key here, 19.2% from the three. And in today's NBA, you cannot shoot that poorly and expect to compete. So it looked like when he was shooting, it was I'm just going to jack it up and see what happens. A lack of confidence maybe, or just didn't care about being in the bubble, but he played extremely poor. Yeah,
I watch him play and I just don't know if he's bothered about playing for the Pelicans.
He looks very casual.
Like, I just don't know. Does he want to be there? I've always seen him as he wants to play in a big market. Like, he wants to play for the Knicks. He wants to play for in LA.
I feel like even going back to his UCLA days, he's a very casual basketball player. So that when he plays, he doesn't show emotion either way. He just kind of just goes about it. So I suppose that could also be just his demeanor on the court. But I'm just very disappointed. I would have thought that he could have used this as a sort of a catalyst to a good offseason and then a good start to next season. But again, the whole Pelicans in general were poor.
Yeah. Danny Green, he was so bad.
Very bad. The good thing for him is sitting on the Lakers and not being a star who's expected to score night in, night out. He can get away with it for now. But in the playoffs, he needs to come up big. He was 4 from 20 at one point in the bubble. You can't... I know shooters shoot, but shooters have to get something in. You can't afford to be shooting that poorly from the three-point line, especially when you're known as the dagger. He has a full arm sleeve of like Marvel and other comic book like shooter characters. I think there's like he's got a Robin Hood tat. I think he's got what's the guy from the Avengers? Anyone remember that guy?
Arrow.
Yeah, he's got one of those in there. You can't have a sleeve like that and shoot as poorly as he does. But he's a linchpin for me for the Lakers shooting because Dion Waiters I think will be okay. J.R. Smith will get some shots up, but they expect Danny Green to shoot and shoot well.
Yeah, that's right. Also, for all you Marvel fans, I'm not too big on it, so I apologize if I upset everyone if I get that wrong.
It was Hawkeye, not Arrow.
Hawkeye, there you go.
Oh, good old Arrow.
Chuck knows. I'm like, oh yeah, shooting Arrow, no worries.
Mate, I just want to let you just ramble on about like not knowing it, and then let everyone feed you in the comments.
That's it. Hawkeye. So look, LeBron is giving good looks because he makes the defense collapse along with AD, so they won't be contested. Some will be contested, but they'll be majority wide open. So he needs to knock them down, especially going forward into the playoffs. He'll be getting those shots he needs to make if the Lakers to go on a run.
Yep.
Orlando Magic player Evan Fournier.
Yeah,
he's their go-to.
He is. I wouldn't say he's the best player. He's the best scorer on their team. I think
best guard.
I think Vucevic is definitely the best player on that team.
Yeah, and he had to step up after Jonathan Isaac went down.
Yeah, that's it.
He didn't really do that.
No, he kind of was just going through the motions, it looked like he's been very good for them this season and has played quite well. And considering that they're not going home, are we talking sweep? If he doesn't play well?
I don't know. That's going to be... Yeah, they're going to get swept.
Yeah, they're going to get swept.
I look at it, I'm like, Milwaukee, I'm like...
There's no defending it. Like, there's no one on that team for the Magic who can stop Giannis just racking the rim on all their faces. Like, no one's going to compete. They're not going to score enough points. And the Bucks have a very good defensive lineup. They're very tall and long and athletic. It's a sweep. Sweep.
So, just a bit of background on why Fournier made the all-bubble trash team. Regular season, he actually 18.5 points per game. And now he's averaging 14.4, but he's actually shooting 24% from three.
Yeah, and we go back to it.
Which is worse than Danny Green.
Well, everyone in the bubble has been saying it's easier to shoot. So why is he struggling? That's just my takeaway constantly with these shooters. Is everyone else is saying it's easier to shoot in the bubble, but these guys are underperforming.
Fifth and final, Buddy Hield.
Ah, Buddy Hield.
He signed a big contract with the Kings, 4
Yep.
years, 94 million,
Mm-hmm.
and he actually thought he was worth more and didn't want to sign it.
Don't know who thought he was worth that in the beginning.
But man got paid,
Yeah,
so I
secure with the bag.
applaud that. So he averaged 12 points in the bubble, coming from 19.
It's just not good enough. Like, it's just not good enough. The Kings weren't really going for anything in the bubble. It was probably more of a time to get some reps and maybe finish out the season. There was nothing really on the line for them. I didn't think they were competitive enough to compete for that playoff spot. But still, that's a 7-point difference in 8 games. That's quite substantial.
Huge.
It is huge. And you can't afford to have... I think he's not the best talented player, because that's obviously De'Aaron Fox, but he is...
He's not even the second.
But he's the best scorer. He can get a bucket at any time,
Yeah.
but he just didn't do it.
There's a lot of hype of him coming into the league when he was at the Pelicans.
Yeah.
And they traded him, and he hasn't really lived up to that. So he's got a lot of improvement to do going forward into the season. We'll now move into the playoff predictions. You know, they've now been set. So in the West, we've got Lakers versus Blazers. How do you feel that will go?
Sweep. I'm calling it. Sweep.
I think that's very disrespectful to Portland.
Nah, sweep. Don't care. I think LeBron turns it on. I think he's kind of been hearing the rumblings of people saying that the Lakers haven't been performing well in the bubble. I think him and AD click, and I think it's a sweep.
I see the Blazers winning 1 or 2.
Dame time's over. Dame time was good in the bubble regular season, but Dame time's over. The clock has struck midnight, and it's over.
I feel like you're being extremely harsh.
Let's see.
We'll see. The Blazers will win a game. If I was a betting man, I'd put money on them to win at least one.
You're going to lose money, I'm sorry to say.
We'll see what happens when it unfolds on Tuesday. Clippers and Mavs.
Now
will be...
this I have as tight. I know you're probably going to be the complete opposite, but I'm sitting there going, Clippers might lose 1, maybe 2. Just because I think like with Luka's talent and Porzingis playing the best he's played in about 18 months, I feel like they could steal 1 or 2 with a Clippers team that's like a bit all over the shop at the moment.
Because the Clippers surprised me
Mm.
in the bubble, because we were expecting them to be a bit all over the place because they were missing some strong personnel with Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell. But they've performed and they picked up some wins.
Yeah.
And it'd be good to see Kawhi guard Luka.
Well, I think that's what's going to happen, and I think Kawhi's going to be trying to shut down Doncic because you've got enough scoring on the Clippers that you can leave him on that and have Paul George, Lou Williams, and
He can just have all his focus on Luka.
Yeah, correct. So I think that'll be. But Luka always finds a way. It's going to be tough for him. He's going to have to put in a lot of work, but I feel like he could easily steal a game or two, especially because there's no travel and all that sort of jazz.
Yeah, because Porzingis has been playing well in the bubble.
Yeah, and he's shooting well, which is great. So a 7-footer that can shoot, that means he's letting the ball go at like 7'3", 7'4". That's hard to. I don't think there's anyone on. I think Kawhi's the only person in their team that I think could defend Porzingis, and he still has the height advantage. I don't think the Clippers bigs, especially Zubac, is not quick enough or athletic enough to move his feet to beat Porzingis to the next spot. So I think that'll be a key matchup: is how do they play Porzingis? Are they going to leave Harrell on him? Are they going to put Zubac on him? That's kind of where, or is Kawhi going to play him? But yeah, so that's sort of the matchup to watch for me is who versus Porzingis.
Yeah, the Mavs are a definitely good team. I don't think this will be the year where they make a run, but in the next coming few years,
They're
they
building.
will be.
They're building.
They'll be a force. Once again, we have Denver versus Utah.
Yeah,
Denver's at 3, Utah's at 6.
I like Denver a lot. I think they're very deep. I think they've got a lot of shooting.
Because Jamal Murray didn't play that much.
No, he was injured coming into the bubble. Gary Harris was also injured, and so was Will Barton. So they're 3 solid guards that play that sort of 3-headed monster there. Were injured. So I think Utah will steal a game. Maybe 2, but I just don't see them progressing. I think they're going to get beaten.
Yeah, I can't see anything but Denver advancing.
Yeah.
But there's always been upsets.
It's just a boring matchup. I know. I feel for
You're
you.
just used to it.
Like, yeah, I feel like it's happened over. I know it might not have happened over and over again, but I feel like it's just 2 teams I just don't care about watching.
Yeah, and they're always floating around 4 through to 6 or 3 through to 6.
They're always through that middle, and they don't tend to do anything outside of that. The next, just matchup.
That's it. The one I'm most excited for.
I wonder why you two are very excited about this matchup.
Houston versus OKC.
I'm-
Houston at 4, OKC at 5. As we all know, there's no home court advantage.
I'm less excited. I'm more concerned.
Concerned. I'm this
concerned for Houston.
This is, yeah.
I'm the opposite. I'm very concerned that Brody's going to turn it on and he's going to send us home very quickly.
See, I don't think so. I've
I
got
don't think
OKC coming through. I got OKC winning this one in 6. I think for me, the big point is how well Shai Gilgeous scores. Because you know what you're going to get out of Chris Paul, and you know what you're going to get out of Schroeder. You know what you're going to get out of Adams.
And Gallinari.
They're consistent veterans of the NBA at this point. But the spark or the guy who could take them to the next step is Shai Gilgeous, who I think was robbed of not being a finalist for the most improved. Just putting that out there.
let the people know.
But because they shoot so much, the Houston Rockets shoot the three so much.
And the OKC are actually the best team in the bubble at defending a 3. That's surprise.
That's a big stat right there.
So will offense beat defense or defense beat offense? That would be the question. I wish this was in crowd-filled stadiums because it would have been great to have Russ return back to Oklahoma.
It would have been incredible. I would like to see how he would be received, if he would be booed or if he would be.
He wouldn't
No,
have
he
been
wouldn't have been booed. No way. They would have like a standing ovation for him. You know, he's a legend of the team.
That's easy to say.
I'll tell you who would have been booed though, Chris Paul.
I feel like he would have been.
He would have been booed for sure, but he would have loved it. I reckon he
yeah.
would have loved it.
He thrives on that.
Remember, we're talking about OKC, and they had a 0.2% chance of making the playoffs, and I reckon they're going second round. They won't go past that, but you heard it here first. They're beating Houston in 6. It's over.
We'll see. Like, a lot of basketball to play. Moving on, Eastern Conference. I know we don't talk about the East enough.
Who cares about the East?
This is. We'll just talk about it.
It pains you. I can hear the pain in your voice when you want to talk
well,
about
it's just like
it.
Bucks versus Magic, 1 versus 8.
We know where that's going.
Sweep.
4.
It's over. Like, it's over before it began. And I don't know if it's just... I know Giannis obviously had to sit last game out with the headbutt, but I don't think the Magic are going to stir him up. I think he's going to cruise through.
That's
If
Bucks
you're-
and 4.
If your strategy is, let's just stir Giannis up,
Yeah.
you've lost.
You're going to lose. And I think that they're underestimating players like Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez has been shooting at the 3 a lot and shooting it well.
Same with George Hill.
There's a lot of players on that team. Eric Bledsoe still trying to find his way a little bit, coming back from injury. But yeah, if you're trying to go out there and muck around with Giannis, he's not going to beat you. The rest will beat you.
The Bucks have the most pressure on them to perform out of any team in the NBA in the playoffs.
The time is now.
Yeah.
With Giannis's impending free agency and that sort of hanging over everyone, the time is now. They need to get it done. And they built a team that could do it. But if they get done they won't get done by the Magic, but if they get done in the second round, everyone will think it's a failure of the season.
Yeah. Even if they get done in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it's a failure. They have to make the NBA
okay.
Finals.
Big call.
And the team that might play in the NBA Finals, who are playing the Nets, Raptors.
Sweep. There's not much to say. The Raptors are a really good team. The Nets just don't have the firepower to compete right now. It's not their fault. They've got a lot of injuries. But Tyler Johnson's playing for them, and Tyler Johnson was out the league the whole year. That's how many injuries they had. They tried to bring in Michael Beasley. Like, they're just banged up, and it's not their fault, but they're looking towards next year. This is just a practice run. They're going to try for the first 2. Well, they'll try for the first 2 or 3 games, but...
Yeah, that's it. I have Raptors in 4 with that one. Then we've got Boston at 3 versus Philly at 6. Philly been struck by some injuries there with Ben Simmons. I can only see Boston winning that.
Yeah, I think it's just purely because of the injuries. Embiid, with a bit of an injury cloud over his head, can he carry the Sixers through the first round? But this is the toughest matchup for the 76ers, is this Boston team. Because they've got great guards, high scoring, good shooting, veteran presence, and their 2 centers, both Kanter and Tice, although not fantastic, are long, solid, and can rebound.
Yeah.
So Embiid's going to have a tough day at the office, I think, and I just don't know if they have enough in the rest of their side to win. Tobias Harris, I think, is the linchpin in this one. Can he lock Tatum down while still trying to score 25 a game? But I'm with you. I see Boston pulling through in probably 5 or 6.
Boston 5 or 6. And then finally, Indiana at 4 versus Miami at 5. This would be very close as well.
It's going to be very close. It could swing either way. It really hinges on how well Miami shoots. and then for Indiana, how well players like Oladipo and TJ Warren play. I'm very impressed with Indiana, even though I am a Miami Heat fan. I'm very impressed with how Indiana's played. Nate McMillan's done a really good job with them. Miles Turner might be a problem for the Heat. I know Bam's more athletic than him, but he does have a serious height advantage. But I see Miami scraping through in 6.
Yeah, I find this a very extremely tough to call.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be upset if either team won or shocked. It's going to go to 7 games.
You got 7 games.
I got 7 games. I think the Heat might just pull that on top. The teams that missed out on the playoffs, how does the future look for them going into next season? We'll start with the Suns going 8-0.
The Suns should be really happy with where they are. I think outside of obviously who's going to take the eventual bubble championship, the Suns should be the next happiest team after that. They went 8-0. Good signs for the future. They have D-Book and Ayton, who both played very well. What they need, though, in the offseason is an established veteran to be that third piece on the puzzle. They've got great young talent, Kelly Oubre. They've got Bain still. Cameron Payne played really well for them. They've got Mikal Bridges. They have some solid young
and they've
players.
got Saric as well.
And Saric. They just need a veteran presence. So, for me, the key for them in this offseason, draft need, not want, and then pick up an established veteran like DeMar DeRozan, who has a player option at San Antonio. Gordon Hayward got a player option at the Celtics, or Paul Millsap.
Yeah.
Like, those are three established guys who you know pretty much what you're going to get from them day in, day out. And they could really help be a sort of third fiddle alongside the big man and
Aiden and Booker.
Exactly.
That's it. San Antonio finished the bubble strong.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't want to, like, I don't want to
They're a bit in limbo.
Yeah, I don't want to have a knock on Pop, but he's not being dynamic enough in the way he's setting up his team, and they're not adjusting to shooting the 3 as well. They were better in the bubble than I expected, but he's still trying to play a bit too old school basketball in a modern basketball scenario. It's just not going to work. The other issue is they're quite old. Like, LaMarcus Aldridge is 34, I think, turning 35, and he's taking up a solid chunk, like almost $20 million a year. DeMar DeRozan has a player option, but he doesn't seem to be the answer. It's a bit like Toronto all over again. He just doesn't seem to be good enough to be the number one man on the NBA team. Do they blow it up and start again, or do they keep pushing ahead with some of the younger guys like Lonnie Walker, who's only in his second year, or Deontay Murray, who had some really big parts of the season, and who I thought at the start of the season was going to be the most improved and sort of take that leap. But yeah, you're right. They're in limbo, and I don't know. I can't think of something right now that would change that.
Yeah, in Spurs fashion, they usually build for. They find gems in the draft.
Yeah,
late on.
They built through the draft, but it's a weak draft class, so it might be another year of mediocrity for the Spurs.
Yeah, I see that happening, and we'll see. Going forward, I don't think I don't think they're strong enough for the playoffs next year. Sacramento Kings, or as Shaq says, Sacramento Queens.
Well, they've just lost their entire front office almost. GM and assistant GM both standing down. What's that signs of, I suppose? Good young core. Like, I know we knocked Buddy Hield earlier, but he can shoot really well. You've got Marvin the Bags Bagley, and you've got De'Aaron Fox, 2 really young, talented players. Harry Giles, he played really well in the bubble. But again, a team that I think is strapped for cash and just sort of sitting in that lower, like a limbo of the Western Conference, because they're not going to compete for a playoff spot.
No, and they're going to have to pay De'Aaron Fox.
And they're going to have to pay De'Aaron Fox. He's the linchpin of their team moving forward for the next 5-10 years. If they don't have him, they're going to be really struggling. But I suppose for me, I'm going to try and trade Barnes and Buddy Hield and see what I can get in return.
Yeah. And then Memphis, who were my favourite team this season.
Yeah.
They struggled. Went 2-6 in the bubble, and Jaren Jackson left with an injury. It was a big loss.
Well, I feel like they were in the driver's seat. Well, they had the positioning.
Yeah.
And obviously they still got to the playoff matchup this morning and lost to Portland, who are on fire. But I just, like, they were in the hot seat and they just didn't perform. Not as bad as the Pelicans, but they just didn't do enough for me to go, oh, they've arrived at that part of the lower part of the Western Conference playoffs.
Yeah. They've got some young talent with Clark and Dylan Brooks and Ja Morant.
Yeah, they got some really good players. But again, I think this is similar going back to that Suns. You need a savvy veteran to play alongside these guys. I know that Iguodala didn't want to play there, but I felt like he would have done huge things for them as a mentor, but obviously that didn't work out. they haven't got a lot of money to spend. I think they're just 2 mil under the cap, but they've still got something like 20 million in cap hold, depending on what they do. And they're paying Gorgie Dang 17 million a season.
They need to move him.
But who's going to take him on?
No
That's
one's
the
gonna take
problem.
him on.
But
That's the thing.
they need to make a decision and try and either move him on or something, because that's too much cap for too little on-court performance.
That's right. And then the team that I don't even want to say disappointed, because it didn't as expected.
Yeah.
Washington
The
Wizards.
Washington garbage cans. Pedestrian at best. Again, not sure why they're invited to the bubble. I'm sorry, fans of the Wizards, but I'm going to keep ripping you because you're just garbage.
No, you're not.
They are... I don't know where they're going. They have Bradley...
I would not be surprised if they were the worst team in the NBA next year.
They'll be battling the Hornets, yeah, for it. Definitely think it's between one of those two guys. I think the Knicks are going to take a jump, by the way, just a side note. But I think it's the Hornets and the Wizards are going to be the two worst teams in the league. But the key for me that they need to do this offseason is sort out Bradley Beal and John Wall. They need to figure out what they're doing. Are they sticking with them? John Wall, is 30 years of age now. 2 years basically where he hasn't played, and he's taking up 41 million a cap, which is 25% of their cap, and he's got 3 more years left on his deal, and they just aren't winning. Bradley Beal, lesser cost at $25 million a year, but is he really the guy that can lead your team, an undersized 2-guard at 6'3"? Is he big enough or good enough to take them anywhere? And they've obviously got some good, decent young players in Rui Hachimura, who I rip a bit, but I think he's got some talent, not enough to be the leader of a team, but enough to be a role player within the team. And then the surprise for me this year, coming from where he came from, was David Bertans.
Yeah, from the Spurs.
Yeah, I was a bit shocked. So they've got NBA caliber players, but then they got people like Isaac Bonga, who I'm like, you shouldn't be in the league.
Yeah, but look, there's no doubt Bradley Beal can play. His time is up at the Wizards, in my opinion, and it's time for him to move on, and it's best for both parties. And then finally we have the Pelicans.
Yeah. I feel for the Pelicans. And I think obviously with the news of Alvin Gentry coming out this morning that he's going to be he was moved on, I think it's good news, because I think they need a little bit of a shake-up after that disappointing performance. The rumours are Ty Lue or Jason Kidd are in the driver's seat for a possible coaching takeover there. They have a great young core, really good young core. They've still got Drew Holiday on the roster as well, and JJ Redick. Jahlil Okafor is not really the answer, probably. I think they're probably more leaning towards having to find a better backup big man. Jackson Hayes, he's very raw, but played pretty well in the bubble. He runs the rim really well. Derek Favors, they've got to move him on. They need to either get younger or try and find better pieces to put around Zion and Ingram.
Yeah, that's right. They've got a lot of... They need to take a look at themselves, as you said, and figure out what they want to do in the direction they want to take. Boys, first round of the playoffs next week. Who's your pick?
I've got Clippers and Mavericks. So I've got a feeling that the Clippers won't escape as easily as they think they will. I've got a feeling that the Mavs are really going to give it to them, and watch Luka and Kristaps to really dominate those games.
Yeah, man, I got Houston OKC. As I said, I think OKC is going to cause the only real upset of the first round of the playoffs. So that's who I'm looking forward to watching.
Thanks again for tuning in. We have a big week ahead with more NBA playoff action unfolding. Make sure you follow the Free Agents Podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and like and subscribe on YouTube.